All right, time for another update. It's January 14th. I was out for a couple weeks due to COVID and family vacation. Pretty much recovered now, so I've been back at it for about a week. What I've done this week is I got the wings mounted, located in place, made it to the fuselage. You do have to do that before you mount the fuel tanks. Once you try to make the wings to the fuselage, and when you do that, you actually have to pull the spars together slightly. So if you try to fit the fuel tanks while they're on the sawhorses, you'll end up getting in the wrong position. So you have to mount the wings on the aircraft. Wasn't too bad. After you put the chromoly plates inside of here, the reinforcement plates, you do have to resize the lugs that are on the fuselage. You take all that off at the bottom. Do not take it off the top. It's the angle of incidence is set off the top. The only thing that you do to the top is just on the front and the back side of both those lugs is you ground it. You're just trying to give it the same curvature of the inner diameter of the spar. So you just mate that up just a little bit, and like Jack from Just Aircraft said, you just basically just hit it a few times with the file on the front and the back just to kind of round it off. And then what I did was I mic'd the inside of the spars after they had those plates in it, and I ground everything off the bottom, just taking a little bit of a time to making sure that it made. Wasn't too bad. Ended up taking off, it's probably about a 16th or a little less what ends up coming off there. Like I said, just take off a little bit of time to make sure that you're not going overboard. After that, the wings actually made it up pretty good. I did end up using a small ratchet strap in between the spars when I set it up there. That way I could just ratchet just a little bit so they would slide right on and then get the pins in. And it wasn't too bad, but you do have to do that to get the fuel tanks mounted and positioned. The thing that on the fuel tanks, that it is a little bit of a pain. The tanks are not perfectly square. So you kind of set this gap here from this spar. This one is just sitting up here in place. It's got to be sized to fit between the spars after you end up fitting them to the fuselage. But you put that up in place so you can, make sure that you've got proper clearance all the way down. Since that tank is not perfectly square, perfectly flat, what they have you do is you clamp a couple boards in place on the bottom of the ribs. You set the tank in there, and then I highly recommend shimming, doing everything you can to get that tank where it's just perfect, where you're not sticking up above these ribs and getting into your cover. But you've also got to be very careful on the bottom side because the tank is not perfectly flat on the bottom. So depending on where you have your boards positioned, part of the tank will protrude below the bottom of the ribs and end up protruding into your fabric. So just be mindful of that and just take your time. Tanks will come in and out several times getting it right. One of Steve Henry's recommendations was when you actually locate and drill the holes in these, just make sure that it's on the portion of this bracket that is flat against this surface. If you get that off too much, it will try to rock those when you go to rivet them on finally rivet them on. All in all, not too bad. It is definitely a two-man job to get the wings up there and located, especially fitting them the first time, because you are going to be pulling them off and on, trying to get everything to fit properly, get all the holes to line up. All in all, I was pretty impressed. Most everything lined up really good right off the bat. I was surprised how well the holes in the spars mated with the fuselage. I mean, you have to do just a little bit of cleanup work here and there and a little bit of jimmying to get it where it's perfectly lined up, but all in all, pretty good. As you can see, I'm really cramped on space. I had to find a way to shoehorn it in here so I could actually get everything to fit. And I'm probably gonna go ahead and leave the wings in place for a little while and start working on my trailing edge, my ailerons and flaps, try to get a little bit further along with that. The only other thing I was going to show you real quick is a side project I'm working on, which I'll give you guys more details of that as I get closer into it. This piece was 3D printed. It's part of a side project I'm doing with the throttle and flap handle. More to come on that. I'll let you guys see it as it develops. It's going to be something that people either love or hate, but I'm pretty excited about it. All right, I think that is my update for the week. If anybody sees anything that I'm doing wrong or anything I could do better, please speak up. I welcome the advice. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. Bye.